Latest move is causing ripples in the sporting world too. Trump has now managed to upset sports fans across 12 countries. His administration recently imposed a fresh travel ban on several countries, citing national security concerns.
By the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas, we don't want them.
We begin in the US, where President Donald Trump has signed a travel ban to stop people from 12 countries from entering the United States.
There are a bunch of major headlines coming out of the White House tonight after President Trump signed a series of proclamations behind closed doors. That includes a sweeping travel ban on 12 countries with a partial restriction on 7 others.
And that was announced. The important thing there for us is that the federal government and this administration recognize the importance of the Olympics and the games. And there is a carve out in the order, in the travel ban, that allows for and assures that there will be access to the games, the Olympics, for the athletes and their families and the officials. We will be able to have a wide open games.
Thinking about taking a trip to the U.S.? Well, heads up, there's a new visa integrity fee coming.
Millions of travelers coming into the U.S. will now be subject to a new $250 visa integrity fee.
Depending on which country you're coming from and the reason you're going, if you're going to the U.S., be prepared, it could cost you an extra $250. It's called the visa integrity fee. It's baked into the so-called Big Beautiful Bill.
How America has embraced all different communities from the entire world.
Harder to gauge the impact of U.S. immigration policies, including new international travel restrictions and an ongoing crackdown on illegal immigration that has impacted even some non-citizens in the country legally.
Trump's policy could cause major backlash and further dampen his own tournament. For the 2028 Olympics, all 12 banned nations will have none of their fans' presence in any of the sporting disciplines. Yes, many of these countries are not top contenders in some of the events, but the Olympics is a stage that advocates inclusion, that represents global participation.
And when you want to kick out someone...
First, it was FIFA. Now, even the Olympic Games could be next. With visa costs rising, ICE raids making headlines, and a new $250 integrity fee for all non-immigrant visa applicants set to kick in on October 1st, 2025 as part of Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the U.S. might be pricing itself out of hosting the world's biggest sporting events. The twist is, more fans are saying they don't feel safe coming to the U.S. They'd rather head to Canada or Mexico. There's even a congressional letter urging the U.S. to streamline World Cup visas. But so far, the uncertainty is only growing. Today, we'll break down how the World Cup mess could spill over into the Olympics, why Canada and Mexico are looking like the smarter bet, and how much the US could lose if nothing changes. And hey, if you're new here, hit subscribe for real stories and updates the mainstream won't cover. The FIFA fallout deepens. The fallout from FIFA's side is already getting real. The new $250 integrity fee is just the start. That's on top of the usual visa charges, and the U.S. Travel Association's CEO called it a self-imposed tariff that could backfire right as the World Cup approaches. The fee kicks in October 2025, just months before kickoff, making travel even harder for fans already dealing with long waits. In countries like India, Nigeria, and Kenya, U.S. consulates are reporting wait times of over 300 days for a visa. For many, that means it's nearly impossible to get approved before the tournament even begins. Add to that the U.S. travel bans that block citizens from a dozen countries, including some whose teams have actually qualified, and you're looking at a direct violation of FIFA's rule that all ticket holders must be guaranteed access. It's not just paperwork and fees. Fan safety is a real issue. Take what happened in Nashville. A predominantly Hispanic supporters group skipped an MLS match because they feared ICE raids. That's not some hypothetical. People are spending thousands on flights and tickets, only to worry about armed agents checking documents in the stadium. The open celebratory atmosphere FIFA promises is nowhere to be found. The U.S. agreed to provide safe access as part of its hosting contract, but right now, those guarantees look shaky. FIFA isn't waiting around. Sources say they're actively discussing moving some group stage matches to Canada. There's a clause in FIFA's contract that lets them reassign games with just 90 days' notice if a host nation fails on access or security requirements. Canada doesn't have these visa bottlenecks or ice checkpoints. Their stadiums are ready and fans aren't scared away by the prospect of immigration enforcement at the gates. Fans are noticing. One told us, "I'm skipping the US matches. Way too risky now. Canada looks way more welcoming." That's not an isolated view. When even Mexico, another co-host, feels safer for international supporters, the US has a problem. All of this is starting to get noticed by more than just soccer fans. The organizations behind the world's biggest events are watching closely, and the warning signs aren't being ignored. IOC concern over US hosting Olympics. The International Olympic Committee is now zeroing in on Los Angeles, and their concerns go well beyond soccer. The IOC's job is to make sure the Olympics actually bring the world together. But right now, they see a host country putting up barriers. US travel bans affect 12 countries, and there are tighter restrictions on visitors from 7 more. The Olympics are supposed to be about universal access, every athlete, every nation, every fan. But the current US approach is raising questions about whether that's even possible in 2028. Congress is feeling the heat too. In July 2025, a bipartisan group of lawmakers sent a letter to Secretary of State Rubio urging him to expedite visa processing for both the World Cup and Olympics. They called out the massive backlogs and warned that these delays could undermine the entire point of hosting global events. It's not just about paperwork. The IOC's own human rights policy makes it clear host countries must guarantee ticket holders and participants access or face penalties. Human Rights Watch has already flagged the U.S. for falling short. Athletes from countries like Iran, Libya, and Syria could be banned outright. Fans from places like Brazil and Mexico are staring at 300-day waits. The IOC doesn't want to see a repeat of last-minute chaos, especially not on this scale. Security is another problem. ICE and Homeland Security have already made headlines at World Cup qualifiers, and the IOC knows what that looks like on the world stage. Leaked internal reports describe the situation as unpredictable and warn about risking empty seats if fans and athletes can't get in. The IOC doesn't want to see images of armed agents at Olympic venues or stories about families being turned away at the airport. They remember Beijing and the backlash over human rights. Now they're worried about the same kind of headlines in Los Angeles, but with immigration and security as the flashpoints. The IOC isn't just sitting back. They've floated the idea of special Olympic visa lanes, but so far Homeland Security hasn't made any public commitments. They've also talked about moving some events to Canada if the US can't guarantee access. That's not just a threat, it's written into their contracts. Canada's ETA system can approve visitor authorizations in under an hour for most ticket holders, while the US is leaving people in limbo for months. With Canada already getting ready for extra World Cup matches, it wouldn't take much to shift Olympic events north if needed. None of this is about politics for the IOC. It's about keeping the games running smoothly and making sure the stands are full. Every week the US delays on visas and security guarantees. Canada looks like a safer bet. And if the US can't fix this in time, the consequences go far beyond empty seats. The financial risk, US could lose billions. The financial risk here is huge. The World Travel and Tourism Council projects that the US will be the only country out of 184 major economies to see a drop in visitor spending in 2025, down by $12.5 billion. That's not just some blip. Forbes puts the potential loss even higher, closer to $25 billion, once you count lost sponsorships, advertising, and broadcast deals. The new $250 visa integrity fee, tacked on top of already high costs, is pushing out families from places like Brazil or Nigeria, where annual incomes barely reach $20,000. It's not just individuals deciding to stay home. It's entire tour groups, delegations, and fan clubs rethinking the trip. Local economies are staring down the barrel. Los Angeles stands to lose $600 million from just the 8 World Cup matches at SoFi Stadium if international fans keep canceling. Hotels had already started hiring and expanding, betting on a flood of visitors. Restaurants, rideshare drivers, and event vendors all ramped up. But if even 1% fewer fans show up, that's $2 billion gone. The Olympics are an even bigger target. The 2028 Games in LA were supposed to generate $10 billion in economic activity. But those projections only work if stadiums are full and visas are easy to get. Right now, neither is happening. There's precedent for how bad this can get. Tokyo's 2020 Olympics postponement cost $28 billion. The U.S. faces not just delays, but the real possibility of losing events to other countries. The IOC has moved events before. Denver lost the 1984 Winter Games, and Greece almost lost the 2004 Summer Games. These aren't just empty threats. Sponsors are already reacting. NBC's $7.75 billion Olympic deal is built on the promise of full stadiums and huge global audiences. Coca-Cola and Visa are looking at attendance forecasts and shifting ad money away from U.S. venues if international turnout drops. If broadcasters can't show packed stands and global crowds, those contracts get renegotiated down fast. Ticket sales tell the same story. Atlanta's organizers report 17% slower sales from Latin America compared to 2014. Mexico City outsold them 3-1 for the same fixtures. Canada's cities are hitting 90% visa approval rates, while the U.S. dips below 65% for some nations. U.S. stadiums are sitting on piles of unsold jerseys, and Canada's shops sold out in hours. This isn't just about sports. Every lost tourist dollar means fewer jobs, fewer shifts, and smaller paychecks for workers. The U.S. put up barriers while its neighbors opened doors. Now, other countries are stepping up and the money is following. Canada and Mexico, the rising alternatives. Canada and Mexico are stepping up as the clear alternatives for hosting major sporting events. While the U.S. faces mounting questions over access and logistics, Canada and Mexico are putting forward policies and infrastructure that actually work. Canada's full access policy for World Cup visitors is already in place. There are no nationality filters, no travel bans. Mexico's foreign ministry has confirmed the same. No restrictions for any participant or spectator. These are not vague promises. FIFA is watching, and they're taking notes. Take a look at the stadiums. Vancouver's BC Place is undergoing $120 million in upgrades, including a retractable roof that guarantees matches go on regardless of weather. Toronto's BMO Field is expanding by 8,000 seats to meet FIFA's minimum, with $120 million in city funding, and another $43 million going into a new canopy. These venues hosted the 2015 Women's World Cup without issues. Montreal's Olympic Park, built for the 1976 Games, is already on standby if the IOC needs to shift events. The infrastructure is not just ready, it's being improved to meet the moment. Mexico's track record is hard to argue with. Estadio Azteca is about to become the first stadium in history to host multiple World Cups. That's not just a trivia point, it's proof of reliability. Estadio BBVA in Monterrey and Estadio Akron in Guadalajara routinely hit over 90% capacity. These venues are tested every week, and the upgrades are already underway for 2026. Mexico's airports and hotels are expanding capacity, with new direct flights and booking surges in host cities. When it comes to managing crowds and public safety, there's a clear difference. During major fan festivals in Canada, even during periods of protest, police cleared disruptions without mass arrests or viral scandals. Mexico's security teams have experience from events like the Pan American Games. Compare that to headlines in the U.S. about ICE detaining fans outside stadiums. The economic upside is obvious. FIFA's own assessment puts Canada's projected economic output at $3.8 billion from the World Cup, including a $2 billion GDP boost and $700 million in government revenue. Just 10 extra matches in Canada could mean $1.2 billion more in activity. Hotels in Vancouver are already pre-booked at double the usual rates. Mexico expects $3 billion in new tourism spending from its host cities. Major sponsors are following the numbers, Visa is shifting activation zones to Toronto, and ad spending is moving north. FIFA executives are visiting Canadian and Mexican venues, asking about fan experience basics, not about protests or visa quotas. The U.S. is stuck in debates over border policy, while its neighbors are focused on execution. As more matches and events shift north and south, the question is starting to change. If FIFA is willing to move games, what's stopping the IOC from doing the same? Conclusion. Right now, the U.S. stands to lose billions from stalled World Cup and Olympic plans, with LA's projected $10 billion economic boost on the line if events move elsewhere. Visa backlogs and security issues are not disappearing. Sponsors are already shifting attention to Toronto and Mexico City, looking for stability and reliable crowds. The pressure is building, and the window for U.S. reforms is closing fast. World Cup visa applications open next spring, and Olympic qualifiers are already underway. Tell us in the comments, Should more Olympic events move out of the U.S.? Vote in our community poll on who should host and hit subscribe for updates. Thank you for watching.